So here I have two of the most affordable launch monitors on the market. The Garmin R10 coming at $599 and the PRGR that come in at $230. And in today's video, we're gonna put these two head to head up against the professional indoor golf simulator just to see which one is more accurate at that price point. So let's get to it. So let me tell you how this is gonna work. We have our two competitors. First up is the Garmin R10 coming at $599. Before we do the test, there's 4 steps we need to do to help ensure that the Garmin R10 is the most accurate that we can make it. Now, the first thing you have to do is make sure that the Garmin R10 is up to date. One is through the Garmin Golf app. The Apple Update software updates automatically behind the scenes when the Garmin R10 is connected to your mobile device. Now, the second way you can do this is using the Garmin Express program through your computer. Now, all you have to do is download it from the Garmin website and then connect your Garmin R10 to the software, and it'll automatically update the software inside the Garmin R10 each time you connect to it. So once the Garmin R10 has been updated, the next thing you're going to want to do is to make sure that the unit is calibrated. Now, a lot of people don't calibrate the unit before each time they use it, and it's really easy to do. So all you're going to do is to go into the Garmin Golf app, go to device calibration, and then calibrate the Garmin R10. This usually takes anywhere between 30 seconds to a minute, and once calibrated, you know the Garmin R10 is eternally ready to go. Once you have the Garmin R10 updated and the unit has been calibrated, you're going to want to make sure that the Garmin R10 is set up in the right location. For indoor use, you're going to need to have the ball at least 8 feet away from the net or screen. Now, 10 to 12 feet is usually recommended, which that means that the unit would be another 6 to 8 feet from behind the ball. Garmin recommends that it's usually around 7 feet to get the best information. So next up is the PRGR monitor. Now, this gives a ton of information. It's only $230. It gives us swing speed, carry, total distance, smash factor, and a whole lot more. You can even use this for other sports, such as baseball and softball. So now that we know more about these two amazing launch monitors, let's do a little test, just to see how accurate they really are at that price point. And to do so, I'll be using this professional $50,000 indoor golf simulator, which I know is a trustworthy source. I'm gonna do a little practice session. I'm gonna hit 3 clubs, my pitching wedge, my 7-iron, and my driver. And we're gonna see just how accurate these little units really are. So let's get to it. On this first shot with the pitching wedge, the Garmin R10 showed a carry of 117 yards, while the PRGR showed a carry of 113 yards. And finally, the Sim showed a carry of 118.5. So the Garmin R10 was off by about 1 yard, while the PRGR was off by about 5 yards. All in all, I'm pretty impressed. On this second shot with the pitching wedge, the Garmin R10 showed a carry of 107 yards, while the PRGR showed a carry of 102 yards, and the Sim itself showed a carry of 104.8. So in this circumstance, the PRGR was off by about 2.5 yards, while the R10 was off by about 3 yards. But I mean, for a $229 unit and a $599 unit being less than 5 yards off, that's really, really amazing. On this third and final shot with the pitching wedge, the Garmin R10 showed a carry of 128 yards, while the PRGR showed a carry of 122 yards, and then finally, the Sim showed a carry of 126.9. So the Garmin R10 was off by about a yard and a half, while the PRGR was off by about 4 yards. So let's go ahead and move on to the 7-iron. On this first shot, the 7-iron, the Garmin R10 showed a carry of 168 yards, while the PRGR showed a carry of 160 yards, and finally, the Sim showed a carry of 167.8. So the R10 was off by 0.2 yards, which is just mind-blowing, and the PRGR was off by about 7.5 yards. On the second shot with the 7-iron, the Garmin R10 showed a carry of 138 yards, while the PRGR showed a carry of 136 yards, and the Sim itself was 137.8. So again, the R10 was off by 0.2 or 0.2 of a yard, while the PRGR was off by about 1.5 yards. Still pretty impressive, if you ask me. On this third and final shot with the 7-iron, the R10 showed a carry of 153 yards, while the PGR showed a carry of 148. And finally, the Sim showed a carry of 151.2. So here again, the R10 was off by about 1.5 yards, while the PRGR was off by about 3 yards. So, you know, obviously the R10 is a lot more accurate than PRGR, but it's also twice the price. But let's go ahead and move on to the driver. On this first shot with the driver, the Garmin R10 showed a carry of 212 yards, while the PRGR showed a carry of 211 yards, and then finally the Sim was showing a carry of 222.8 yards. So in my book, you know, within 10 yards with the driver is pretty good. This wasn't the best shot, but I mean, it's pretty amazing that the PRGR and the R10 was showing almost the same number. You know, that's pretty impressive. On the second shot of the driver, the Garmin R10 showed a carry of 196 yards, while the PRGR showed a carry of 192. And then finally, the Sim itself showed a carry of 200 yards. So in this instance, it was a miss hit, but it's amazing these little units are picking up these miss hits. The R10 was off by about 4 yards, while the PRGR is off by about 8, but still pretty impressive off a miss hit. In this third and final shot, the Garmin R10 showed a carry of 220 yards, while the PRGR showed a carry of 221. And then finally, the Sim showed a carry of 222.9. So in this regard, the R10 was off by about 2.5 yards, while the PRGR was off by 1.5 yards. And that kind of blows my mind that the PRGR was pretty accurate on this. I mean, to be even less than 2 yards off a $50,000 simulator, I mean, it shows the power what these little units can really do. So to recap, with the pitching wedge, on average, the R10 was off by about 1.6 yards on the 3 shots that we took. And the PRGR was off by about 4.5 yards. So, I mean, obviously the R10 is more accurate. You're paying twice the price. But, I mean, it just blows my mind that the R10 is really that close with the pitching wedge in comparison to this, $50,000 simulator. That just blows my mind. Just the accuracy of both the R10 in terms of its price point and the PRGR in terms of its price point. Now, when we move on to the 7-iron, the R10 was on average about 0.75 yards off, which is even more mind-blowing. That's less than a yard from this sim. And again, the PRGR was about 4.2 yards on average off of the sim. So here we see that both the pitching wedge and the 7-iron, the PRGR was about 4.5 yards off from the sim. But I mean, like I said, it's $230. Like, that's crazy. And then finally we get to the driver. On average, the R10 was off by about 6 yards on our 3 shots. This is well within tolerance in my mind. Anything less than 10 is really good with drivers. And, the PRGR was 7.4 yards off. So again, here, they are both really consistent in terms of its accuracy in comparison to the simulator. And I think for any golfer out there, it really comes down to price. Like, if you want a super amazing unit, get the R10. I mean, the R10 is the real deal. I love mine. There's so much you can do with it. But if you're more budget conscious and you don't care about all this extra data and sim features and all that stuff like that, I mean, for $230, you can get the PRGR and get all the same information as you would get with a more, expensive unit. It might not be as close, but I mean, you get what you pay for, and it's close enough. And especially if you're working on, your swing speed or your club head speed, or even your, how far you're hitting balls out the range. So big thanks to our friends in Indoor Golf Design for this amazing professional indoor golf simulator. To be honest, I'm just blown away by both the Garmin R10 and the PRGR launch monitors. On average, the Garmin R10 is about 5 to 10 yards off from the professional indoor golf simulator. And this little PRGR unit is pretty cool too. I mean, for $240, you're almost as close to the Garmin R10, and if you're trying to save some money, this is a great way to go. Now, I got my Garmin R10 from our good friends at playbetter.com. They're huge supporters of our community and of the show. So there's a link down below to check out the Garmin R10. But if you want to see what we thought when we compared the Garmin R10 to the Mevo Plus, probably the biggest competitor out there, check out this video over here where we put it to the test. And I'll see you in the next video.